to Bladed Tech Musings. I'm your host, Bladed Tech. It's been 47 years since Hewlett Packard introduced its revolutionary calculator, the HP-35. It was the world's first handheld electronic scientific calculator, which meant it was capable of trigonometric operations. For those of you who have forgotten your high school math classes, trig functions are used to compute the angles and the ratio of sides of a right-angled triangle. Common trig functions include sine, cosine, and tangent. Trigonometry has particular importance in engineering, the sciences, and naval and space navigation.
Trigonometry was invented by Greek mathematicians in the 2nd century BC. Computations were computed by hand for 4 centuries until Alexandrian astronomer Ptolemy compiled extensive computational tables. These tables and more modern variants were used for 1600 years until 1821, when American mathematician Nathaniel Bowditch described a variant of the slide rule that could be designed to compute trigonometric functions. The slide rule was invented in 1622 by English mathematician William Auted, but for 200 years its usefulness was limited to computing logarithms, a type of function that is the inverse of exponentiation, and for computing multiplication and division. Bowditch's discovery meant that the slide rule became a true scientific computer, in a mechanical sense. The slide rule was the one indispensable tool in engineering and the sciences until World War II, when it was supplanted by the mainframe computer. Early mainframe computers were the size of whole buildings and were programmed by hand connecting thousands of wires. These machines drew immense amounts of power and were wildly expensive. Thus, their use was limited to very high priority computational tasks. So the slide rule soldiered on. In the 1950s and 1960s, mainframe computers became smaller and more affordable, but this was all relative to early designs. Users still had to wait in a queue for computer time to run their computations, a situation that was impractical. This changed in 1968 when Hewlett Packard engineers developed the HP-9100A desktop scientific calculator. Now, you didn't have to wait for the mainframe computers to be available, but you did have to be able to afford the eye-watering $5,000 price tag, $37,000 in 2019 dollars. The invention of the microprocessor and another 4 years of development yielded the final product that could replace the reliable slide rule. It was the HP-35. Introduced for $300 or $850 in 2019 dollars, the unexpected demand for the new calculator was so incredible that HP's manufacturing facilities ran flat out just to keep up. The success of the HP-35 made other tech companies sit up and take notice. Texas Instruments introduced its own scientific calculator, the SR50, a year later. The SR in the model name stood for slide rule, an acknowledgement of the handheld electronic calculator's true purpose, the replacement of the venerable mechanical calculator. TI's entry was followed by one from an adding machine manufacturer called Commodore, the model SR1400.
Commodore, TI, and HP were then joined in the scientific calculator market by Japanese electronics manufacturers Sharp and Casio. While Commodore decided to exit the calculator business in 1978 and focus on personal computers, the other 4 kept their hand in, and they continue to dominate this segment even today.
Commodore's history of manufacturing handheld calculators, as well as its forays into typewriters, adding machines, and personal computers, can be found in Episode 1. Late 1970s personal computer giant Tandy also sold scientific calculators during this era, but their products were just rebadged units from Sharp. Episode 2 covered Tandy's rise and fall in personal computing. Links to both episodes can be found below. The HP-35 calculator was presented in an injection molded plastic case, or, as you saw earlier in this video, it was available in a cardboard presentation box with all the items packed separately. Here the case has everything tightly packed inside. Packed in the case is the protective pouch for the calculator. It's rolled up somewhat oddly and held together with a plastic cylinder. The pouch unrolls and it has a flap and you can insert the calculator inside of it. The couch is made out of leather, which is kind of nice, although the fact that you have to unroll it every time you use it, if it's packed in the case, is a little unusual. Inserting the calculator into the pouch and then trying to extract it is somewhat clumsy and a little difficult, although since the pouch is rolled up in the box and then returned when it's not being used, it's easy to see why this is difficult. The pouch has a handy belt loop, so you can imagine an engineer strapping it to their belt and wearing it around the office, much as someone might do with a modern cell phone. Also packed in the container is the AC adapter for the calculator. The AC adapter is for use with the calculator, assuming that the battery pack that also comes with the calculator has run out of charge, and of course the battery pack must be charged with the AC adapter plugged in. This calculator does not accept regular alkaline AA batteries like many modern day calculators, and of course LCD calculators of modern day take button cell batteries. And back then, the LED or the vacuum fluorescent displays of calculators drew too much power for button batteries to be practical. The box contains instructions for the HP-35, of course. The booklet is fairly well organized and contains a concise set of instructions that allows the user to make use of the calculator. It doesn't have any of the density or the extreme complexity of modern-day graphing calculators. The booklet is well organized and with crisp graphics that allow the user to easily understand the function of the calculator. The instruction booklet contains a card that you can use if you need to return the unit for service. This is much like the modern-day warranty or registration card that functions in the same fashion. The calculator itself is made out of much the same type of plastic material that is used in modern-day calculators, although the construction here is somewhat blocky and indicative of the early 1970s. The buttons are well spaced apart and the functions are clearly labeled. Of course, there are less functions in this calculator than a modern-day scientific calculator, but all in all, the calculator is clearly designed for ease of use and ergonomics. Of course, the calculator has the famous wedge shape that allows it to be put in a person's pocket, which was a major feature that Bill Hewlett really wanted for the calculator.
I hope you enjoyed this episode on the Hewlett Packard HP-35. If so, destroy that like button. And to make sure you don't miss new episodes, click the subscribe button. Mash the bell icon so you receive notifications of new episodes. Links to material related to this video, episodes 1 and 2, the BTM channel, and the HP-35 can be found below. Thanks for watching. It has been 47 years since Hewlett Packard introduced its revolutionary calculator, the HP-35. It was the world's first handheld electronic scientific calculator, which meant it was capable of trigonometric operations. Try again.